What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. We hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you are excited because the 2021 NFL Draft is just two kind of dose weeks away. We have lots of things planned for you as the draft continues to get here, as the draft will obviously unfold. Make sure you're subscribed right here to the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. We've been doing a couple of live streams each of these last couple of weeks, doing mock drafts. Last week, we did a full first-round mock draft. This past week, the Talk of the Draft crew, of course, you can listen to them every Wednesday on the Blogging the Boys podcast network as well. Connor Livesey, Dalton Miller, Cole Patterson. I just hang out, do my best to look pretty, and really offer nothing else. We did a full Cowboys mock draft, rather the guys did. Connor had a full Cowboys mock draft, Dalton did, and Cole, our champion, had one that everybody just about agreed with. Cole, by the way, traded back in the first round for the Dallas Cowboys, which seems to be a place that a lot of people want to see the team go in as far as directions are concerned. That's what we're here to talk about today. The not necessarily prospects of trading back, or rather the prospects of trading back. Literally, obviously, we're talking about draft prospects, but kind of what the Cowboys could potentially yield if they do trade back. And in order to kind of figure this out, we're going to take a look at some draft day trades that we've seen over the last couple of years. In fact, if you did not know this, over the last 6 years, 3 times, that's half, good math there by me, half of the time over the last 6 years, the 10th overall pick was traded out of by the team that originally owned it on draft day. And so, there's legitimate precedent to believe that the Cowboys are going to trade out of the 10th overall pick. Obviously, maybe you have somebody in mind who you want to see them take. Maybe that's Patrick Surtain. Maybe that's J.C. Horn. Maybe it's Penei Sewell. Maybe it's Rashawn Slater. Maybe you believe that Kyle Pitts is going to make it like Dalton Miller did. If you do want to watch our full mock draft, by the way, make sure you look back on our video feed. But subscribe right here, again, to the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel so you don't miss anything that we do. But this week got started on the note of trading back, partly because of ESPN's Mel Kiper. Now, he threw out a situation in his latest mock draft. We wrote about this for you at bloggingtheboys.com, where the Cowboys did move back. And there are a lot of potential places the Cowboys can move back. And I think the two most popular are 15 overall and 20 overall. For the purposes of Mel Kiper's mock draft, we're going to talk about 15, the pick that the New England Patriots have. Now, we all know that the first 3 picks of the draft are going to be quarterbacks. It remains to be seen who will go 3rd overall. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is going to Jacksonville and Zach Wilson is going to the New York Jets. But is it going to be Justin Fields? Is it going to be Mac Jones? We really don't know. Obviously, some people still believe it's going to be Trey Lance. Lots of odds makers do believe that Mac Jones is the favorite, so we'll see about that. But it's possible that Justin Fields and or Mac Jones are on the board when the Cowboys are picking at 10th overall. In this particular hypothetical, Justin Fields was. So Mel Kiper had the Cowboys moving back with the New England Patriots. By the way, the Cowboys will visit the Patriots this coming season. And what did the Cowboys get in return? Well, the Cowboys got the 15th overall pick, so they only moved back 5 spots, and they were still able to take J.C. Horn. And honestly, if you told me nothing else, if you just told me that part of it, I would be down. I would be okay with this move because the Cowboys are still getting an elite cornerback. They're still getting a player that we would be fine with them taking with the number 1 overall pick. So any capital gained off of that is going to just be icing on top of the cake. Obviously, the better the capital, the better we're all going to feel about it. And in Mel Kiper's mock draft, you can check it out at ESPN.com, is the Cowboys picking up the 15th overall pick that becomes J.C. Horn and New England's 2022 first-round pick. Now, I know your brain looks at 2022 and you think, like, that's forever away. That's next year. So if you told me the Cowboys are going into the 2021 season as a contender, right? I think we all believe they're a contender with an elite cornerback prospect in J.C. Horn and another one that he's pairing himself with, obviously, in Trayvon Diggs, and that they have 2 first-round picks next year. I mean, that's pretty awesome. And maybe you believe the Patriots are going to return to form. Obviously, they were really aggressive in free agency. A lot of this would obviously depend on how successful Justin Fields is as the Patriots quarterback. But even if those picks, even if both of these teams are playoff teams, I mean, you're talking about, late, not late teens, but early 20s picks. I mean, if the Cowboys wanted to, they could take those 2 first-round picks and move up however much they wanted to in the first round next year if they truly valued whatever prospect that might be. But so, I actually think that after we go through the exercise of looking at, what other teams have gotten for the 10th overall pick, you're going to feel like this is a bit rich. But nonetheless, it's what Mel Kiper has the Cowboys picking up, so hopefully it ultimately comes to pass. Let's talk first about the 2016 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The 2020 Buccaneers, of course, won the Super Bowl, but the 2016 squad was coming off of Jameis Winston's rookie year. Now, the Bucs gave up the 9th overall pick, not quite number 10. You'll recall, of course, this was a fascinating first night of the NFL draft that obviously involved Laramie Tunsil's infamous night, falling all the way to the Miami Dolphins in a move that would kind of be a domino effect that would be seen across the NFL for years to come, including here in 2021, as draft picks related to that continue to unfold. Look at the Miami Dolphins and what they're still doing. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers held the 9th overall pick, 5 spots after the Cowboys took Ezekiel Elliott in 2016. And the Chicago Bears really wanted themselves a particular pass rusher. So the Bears said, you know what, Bucks? What's going on? You'll recall, by the way, that Lovie Smith was the head coach of the Buccaneers at this time. So a common thread there, always something fun to look for when it comes to trade partners. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers gave up the 9th overall pick, which again, the Bears used to take Leonard Floyd. That obviously didn't quite end up the way I think Chicago wanted it to. But what did Tampa get in response? They got the 11th overall pick. So they moved back 2 spots and they still took Vernon Hargreaves the 3rd. That didn't, quite work out for Tampa, in its own right. But they also picked up the 106th overall pick. So you're not getting a top 100 pick for moving down 2 spots. And you look at it, obviously, 2 spots after the Cowboys pick at 10th overall here in 2021 is where the Philadelphia Eagles pick. And so I don't know that we want to trade with the Philadelphia Eagles. To be fair, the Cowboys did trade with Philly last year when they moved up in the 4th round, which is where that 106 pick is. But still, the Cowboys did move up with Philly to get Tyler Biadasz. I just have a hard time seeing the Cowboys moving back in the 1st round with Philly. But again, this is just an example. And so I think that's the type of compensation we're looking at here. And this is just one example over the course of the last 6 years, but a not even top 100 pick for moving back 2 spots. All right. So if you think, okay, we'll just move back a couple of spots, whatever. We're talking about New England. That's why this was a 2-spot difference that Tampa Bay moved down with Chicago, and they only picked up the 106th overall pick. Meanwhile, Mel Kiper's mock draft has the Cowboys moving down 5 spots and picking up a 1st-round pick. That's why I told you it seems kind of rich. And for what it's worth, it is a quarterback. Justin Fields does play the game's most important position. And so in that sense, you can kind of factor in that maybe the cost is going to be higher. Maybe New England's going to be willing to pay more, especially if you can generate some sort of bidding war. In fact, I mentioned that 15 is one of the spots that we're looking at the Cowboys to potentially move out to. 20 is the pick that's held incidentally by the Chicago Bears. And so if the Cowboys can create obviously a bidding war between New England, between Chicago, maybe Justin Fields really is that valued by somebody else. Maybe that can lead to the price rising. But in this particular case, it wasn't that great of a yield for Tampa as they ultimately, like I said, didn't even pick up a top 100 pick. But let's move on. A different case. The 2017 Bills, our first example that did hold the 10th overall pick. The Buffalo Bills, I know. They traded back with the Kansas City Chiefs in the 1st round of the 2017 NFL draft. This will be remembered forever, as this was the pick that the Kansas City Chiefs ultimately used to select Patrick Mahomes. But what did Buffalo pick up in response? So we know that Kansas City went up from 27 to 10. So Buffalo moved down 17 spots. So that's a long way to go, which is why the yield, the haul, is a little bit larger in this sense. So Kansas City comes up 17 spots, takes Patrick Mahomes. They're out of the equation. They go win the Super Bowl 2 years later. What does Buffalo do? Buffalo falls down 17 spots, still takes an incredible player in Tre'Davious White. That's the important thing. You still got to hit on your 1st-round pick. So Buffalo still picks up a 1st-round pick. What else did they pick up? They picked up the 91st overall pick, a pick that they later traded. If you'll look at the denotations we have there at the bottom, shout out again to our wonderful producer, Charlotte Cushing. That was a pick that Buffalo wound up trading beyond that ultimately became John Johnson for the Rams. But here's the kicker, and this kind of does fit to Mel Kiper's hypothesis when it comes to trading back. The Bills picked up from the Kansas City Chiefs the 2018 1st-round pick that Kansas City held, which ultimately was the 22nd overall pick. Now, you'll note that pick also has an asterisk next to it, which means the Buffalo Bills wound up trading that. That pick became Rashaan Evans, the other linebacker taken that the Cowboys had eyes on in 2018 when they took Leighton Vander Esch. The Buffalo Bills were wild at this time. And I think that that's an important thing to note here, because if the Cowboys, let's reset here, because, and I say reset because I'm the one kind of taking things in a number of different directions, but we all believe that the focus is now for the Cowboys. That's why they paid Dak Prescott. There's a very big difference between the 2017 Buffalo Bills that we're kind of looking at and examining here and the 2021 Dallas Cowboys. At the time, the Bills didn't have a quarterback. They were coming off, obviously, of figuring things out with Tyrod Taylor and whatnot, and they were really sort of trying to find who their identity was going to be. Obviously, Sean McDermott has got a long way in changing that, but so has Josh Allen. And the Bills would go on to get Josh Allen. We're going to get to the 2018 draft in a moment, but so at this time, the Bills were just kind of building capital. And that's why of these 3 picks that they ultimately got from this trade that gave the Chiefs Patrick Mahomes, they wound up trading 2 of them. And so I think that that's an important thing to consider here, because if you're trading away, if you're trading out of 10 overall, it doesn't mean that you have to use those picks right here, right now. And it doesn't mean that you have to use them in the future. It means that you can still move around. It means that it gives you more options. It gives you more variables. It gives you more things to play with, just like the Buffalo Bills had here. And so the Bills moved around a lot. They built a roster that can contend. They're seemingly one of the contenders for the Super Bowl this season. I mean, so good on the Bills and good on the Chiefs. This kind of worked out for everybody. I know that, that's probably a hot take, and that, anybody who didn't end up with Patrick Mahomes here is a loser. But still, the Bills got a great player in Tre'Davious White, and they got a lot of capital that allowed them to move around. But this is interesting to look at, the 10th overall pick, because that's exactly where the Cowboys are positioned this year. And again, Buffalo did pick up a first-round pick the following year in 2018, but look how far they had to go. They also picked up the 91st overall pick, and so that's certainly something, nothing to scoff at. A third-round pick is nice, but there's a lot of people who I think expect, if the Cowboys trade out of 10 overall this year, that it's automatically going to include a first-round pick in 2022, when that might not necessarily be the case. But I told you that there are several teams that we're going to be discussing here today. Let's move on to the 2018 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know we just talked about the Buccaneers, but this is the 2018 version. So in 2018, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traded back with the Buffalo Bills. I told you, that's right. The Bills stocked up a lot of picks earlier this offseason, not this one that we're living in, but this offseason that we're examining in 2018. The Bills were also involved in the trading of Cordy Glenn with the Cincinnati Bengals. They were moving picks, moving players, doing all sorts of stuff. And the Bills, like I said, were not afraid to really tinker with their roster. So the Bills identified a player whom they loved, obviously in quarterback Josh Allen, and for good reason. So the Bills obviously wanted Josh Allen in 2018. That was the draft that we talked about a moment ago, where the Cowboys got Leighton Vander Esch, the Titans got Rashaan Evans. It was held at AT&T Stadium, blah, 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 blah. But either way, what did Tampa give up? Tampa gave up the 7th overall pick, which the Bills ultimately used to take Josh Allen. They also gave up a 7th-round pick, 255 overall. No big deal. So if you got to throw in a 7th-round pick, that's fine. But Tampa picked up a lot. Now, this is the 7th pick. It's not the 10th pick. Keep that in mind. But Tampa gained the 12th overall pick, which became Vita Vea, who played a huge role in their run to the Super Bowl this year. I know what you're thinking. I wish the Cowboys would devote attention to the defensive tackle position like that. Well, you know what? Hey, we can't all get what we want. Who sings that song? I'm going to get killed for this. I'm blanking on this. Sorry, my bad, music enthusiasts. You can't always get what you want. And I'm sorry. Please let me know. I want to say the Ramones, and I know that's wrong. It's just the name that's coming to my mind, but whatever. So Tampa moved down 5 spots here, 5 overall spots. They still walk away with a great player like Buffalo did the year before in Tre'Davious White. Tampa still walks away with Vita Vea. And at the time, this was 2018, Tampa still thought that Jameis Winston was the answer, whatever. But what else did the Buccaneers pick up? They picked up the 53rd overall pick, so a second-round pick. Okay, not that bad there. And the 56th overall pick. So that's 2 second-round picks. So the Buccaneers did not pick up, pay attention to this, they did not pick up a first-round pick in this trade. Yes, they picked up the first-round pick that the Bills used. They dropped down 5 spots, but they did not pick up an extra first-round pick. The only net gain for the Buccaneers, besides the 12th overall pick that became Vita Vea, was 2 second-round picks. And maybe you would rather have 2 second-round picks, than a first-round pick. I'm not saying that you would, but it's more volume in a literal sense. It's more ammo, more ammunition to move around in a number of different ways, whatever. But it's just one option is the point, if you want to look at it this way. But again, pay attention to this. That 56th overall pick that became Duke Dawson, the Buccaneers wound up moving. And I think this is a very important thing to pay attention to. Because if we're sitting during the NFL draft, when we're sitting during the NFL draft, we're going to be here, by the way, live on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. So make sure you hang out with us. Make sure you subscribe so you can be part of our party. We're going to have a good time. But whatever the Cowboys get, if they hypothetically trade out of the 10th overall pick this year, all right, whatever they get, they're probably going to utilize to move around. That's what we've seen happen. Mostly, generally, if teams are moving out of the top 10, in this case, this is the 7th overall pick, not the 10th pick, literally. But if teams are moving out, they're using the capital that they gain to do other things. Maybe they trade back again. Maybe they trade up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a never-ending, always moving sort of thing, as evidenced by the trades that we're looking at. Now, this is 2018. This is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 7 overall. I told you that 10th overall picks were moved a couple of different times. Let's take a look at another instance. This same year, in 2018, just a couple of picks later, the then Oakland Raiders traded out of the 10th overall pick. Yeah, that's right. We're already up to 2. The Oakland Raiders, before they moved to Vegas and everything got weird. By the way, this 2018 season, a few months after this, thanks a lot, Raiders, for trading the Cowboys, Mel Kiper. Appreciate you. But anyway, the Oakland Raiders traded the 10th overall pick to the Arizona Cardinals, who utilized it to select Josh Rosen. Obviously not the best utilization of a first-round pick in recent memory, but still, they were going to get a quarterback, and that's an important thing to note here, right? We've talked now about several different instances. Obviously, Buffalo going up to get their quarterback, Kansas City going up to get their quarterback, and Kansas City went up to 10 overall. Arizona came up to 10 overall. These are 2 teams in red jerseys. Maybe it's a red jersey that comes up with the Cowboys to get 10 overall. Maybe the New England Patriots. Who knows? But either way, these are 2 different instances where teams came up to the 10th overall pick specifically to get quarterbacks, and once where a team went inside the 10th overall pick to get a quarterback, and the Bills going up with Tampa Bay to number 7. But let's get back to the subject at hand. The Raiders jumped out of 10 overall with the Cardinals, as mentioned. Arizona takes Josh Rosen, big miss, whatever. Ends up firing Steve Wilkes, moves on, gets Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray, all that jazz. But what did the Raiders gain? They moved down 5 picks. Shout out to you, Mel Kiper, for thinking the Cowboys can move down to 15 overall. So this is a really, really, really applicable scenario, almost identical to what the Cowboys could be looking at. And what did the Raiders pick up? They picked up a 3rd-round pick that became Rasheem Green. They held on to that, and the 152nd overall pick, which they later traded. So, not exactly great for the Raiders in that capacity. But how does this make you feel? I mean, if I told you that the Cow and let's apply the names that Mel Kiper did here. Say the Cowboys traded out with the Patriots because that's who has 15 overall this year. Say the Cowboys did that and they still walk. So change 10 overall in the graphic you're looking at. So now that says Cowboys gave up 10 overall, Justin Fields. And then underneath it says Patriots gave up in that nice green writing. 15 overall, J.C. Horn. We're happy with this so far, right? We're definitely happy with this. But and again, see, that's why I do think the Mel Kiper mock is way too rich, because there's no way. There's just no way the Cowboys are getting a 1st-round pick next year. The Raiders got a 3rd-round pick in that draft. I mean, I think the Cowboys would be lucky to get a 2nd. I mean, so as much as I want to believe that that's a real possibility, it just doesn't seem that way based on historical precedent. But if the Cowboys pick this up, I mean, is that really worth it? I mean, it's worth it if you still get your guy, right? If you're team J.C. Horn anyway, and there's a lot of you who are, and you still get your guy, then it's worth it, right? Because you're picking up capital no matter what, and you can always use more draft picks. But is this really worth it? Are you really banging the table to trade back? Yeah, maybe you get an extra 3rd-round pick. And what's more, I mean, we know the Cowboys already have 2 3rd-round picks this year. So if we apply and contextualize this data and these variables and these assets to the 2021 Dallas Cowboys, that would give them 3 3rd-round picks, almost 3 2nd-round picks. And so, I mean, we know the Cowboys already have 4 picks in the top 100 this year in 2021. In fact, let's take a look at the Cowboys picks right now. So the Cowboys obviously have the 10th, 44th, 75th overall picks and just squeezed in that 4th top 100 pick at 99th overall. But if we throw the Raiders yield back up there, the 79th overall pick, I mean, so now let's add that in. So you're talking about 10th overall, 44th overall, 75th overall, 79th overall, and 99th overall. Suddenly, if you like somebody in the 2nd round, I mean, and if somebody falls, I mean, there's a lot of reason to believe that, one of the linebackers in the early part of the 2nd round, I know linebackers in the early parts of the 2nd round haven't done well for the Cowboys in recent memory. But if one of those guys, I'm not saying this is possible, but in the mocks that we've done, somebody like Jamin Davis falls, and for whatever reason, because every year that happens, right? Every year somebody who we think is a lock for going at the end of the 1st round. I'm not saying Jamin Davis is falling to the 2nd round, but that's just one hypothetical. Maybe that person you really like falls after day 1. And all Thursday night when we do our live recap show here at Blogging the Boys on our YouTube channel, and all Friday morning when we do our recap episode, again, you want to make sure you subscribe here. We're going to be sure that we're doing a lot of stuff to keep you happy because you deserve the very best. rest. But we'll be saying, hey, today it's Friday. You have a second round pick. You have 3 third round picks. Package those bad boys together and go after whoever you really like, whatever player it is that fell. You get my point. And so I think that that's something to really consider for the Cowboys because, look, I mean, this situation is almost identical to what, I almost said Tom McShay, what was his colleague Mel Kiper came up with. And so, hey, but I told you that there were 3 instances in the last 6 years where the 10th overall pick was traded. We've only seen 2, so it's time for you to see the 3rd. Let's take a look at it. The Denver Broncos, as I can move off the screen here, let's take a look at the Denver Broncos in 2019. This was 2 years ago. Denver Broncos, you have the 10th overall pick, which became Devin Bush, who the Pittsburgh Steelers took. That was the first time the Steelers had traded up in like 1,000 years or something crazy like that. So what did they give up? Again, we're talking about the 10th overall pick. This is exactly the pick that the Cowboys have. What did the Pittsburgh Steelers have to give up? The 20th overall pick. So this is really far. This isn't quite as far as Buffalo going from 10 all the way to 27 when the Chiefs came up from Mahomes, but this is going from 10 to 20. Remember, the 20th overall pick belongs to the Chicago Bears this year. That's another example of a team that is in serious potential business to be trading up with the Cowboys in the here and now. So for moving down, and this is I like the math here. I also like 10-20 because my birthday is October 20th. So no big deal. But anyway, I like the math here because it's an interesting way to kind of value and assess the pick. And 15 works that way too. But you're talking about almost like doubling the value of your pick, or not value, but the expense, if you will, right? We have to wait 10 picks to make our pick. So now you're doubling the time that we have to wait, which is going to add to the cost. So what did the Steelers give the Denver Broncos to move all the way down to 20 overall? Well, they gave them the 20th overall pick, which became Noah Fant. Look, the Broncos took a tight end in the first round. Nobody freaked out, but whatever. What else did the Pittsburgh Steelers give up? The 52nd overall pick, which the Broncos later traded. That became Drew Sample. Incidentally, it became Drew Sample, but they also gave up the 83rd overall pick, which became Lloyd Cushenberry, who is still on the Broncos roster. So now you're talking about a 2nd round pick and a 3rd round pick. And so can we deal with that? Like if you told me, let's play that scenario out now. If you told me instead of getting, just 1 extra 3rd round pick, but see, here's the situation. The situation we devised a moment ago, where we talked about the Raiders Cardinals trade, is you pick up an extra 3rd round pick, but you only move down to 15, right? So maybe you still take J.C. Horn. How much are you willing to chance that? Are you willing to move down to 20 in the name of picking up a second round pick as well? Think about that. If we could move, let's really play this out here, because we know the Cowboys obviously have the 10th overall pick and 44th overall pick, right? If you let's assign these values to the Cowboys. If they move down from 10 to 20, J.C. Horn might not make it. And that's a tough pill to swallow. But maybe one of the other, players you like will. And this might be early, but maybe you want to take Christian Barmore there, right? I mean, maybe you want to do that. Maybe you're that high on him. I mean, there are a lot of options. Maybe Trayvon Moehrig, if you really believe in him that much. I mean, there are options. I know that doesn't quite fit the Cowboys right now with Keanu Neal, although there's particulars to that too. But you get my point. There are players that are legitimate values with the 20th overall pick. That's the point here. But if we assign these particular draft pick values to what the Cowboys haul already is, that same hypothetical we lined up a moment ago, right, where we're saying, okay, it's Friday morning. What do we want the Cowboys to do today with these 2nd and 3rd round picks? But we already know that they have 2 3rd round picks to play with. So if we play this out, and keep in mind, the Broncos moved, and this, we don't have it on the graphic for you here, but the Broncos moved up. That 52nd overall pick that they traded, they moved up and used that acquisition to ultimately, net Drew Lock. They moved up to 47 overall, 5 picks up. This was 2 years ago in 2019, and took Drew Lock. And granted, that hasn't totally worked out, but that was a worthwhile risk for the Broncos organization to take because they needed a quarterback and they thought that it would be Drew Lock. Maybe it's still going to be Drew Lock, but you get the point. There's not a lot to believe in there. But the point with regards to the Cowboys is if you move down to 20, you're probably saying goodbye to Patrick Surtain or to J.C. Horn. And you're definitely saying goodbye to either of the tackles and obviously Kyle Pitts. But if you love one of those corners, you're saying goodbye. We've got to accept that at this point. But you're picking up another 2nd round pick. And it's up to you. It's up to you to decide if you think that is enough to look at. So let's play this out again. Let's throw our Cowboys picks up here. I'll move over so I don't get in your way. 10th overall, 44th overall. That was 52nd overall. So now we're adding 52nd overall, and we're adding another 3rd round pick. So at this point, we're saying the Cowboys pick 20th overall on Thursday night. Cool, whoever they walk away with. But then on Friday, they have two second-round picks and 3 third-round picks. If you told me the Cowboys had 5 picks on Friday, that would be fun. I mean, it really would be fun. But would it be fun enough for you to say no to J.C. Horn, to Patrick? It's definitely Patrick Surtain. J.C. Horn. Let's use that name. Would you be willing to say no to J.C. Horn to get another second-round pick? And I tell you what, if you get another second-round pick, let's move this over one more time as I do this here. Let's put this up here. We're dealing with new technology here, so bear with us. But let's play this out. We know the Cowboys have 44 overall. If they drop to 20, and they're going to use that 20th overall pick on whoever. Say it is Christian Barmore, whatever, fine. They've got 44. They've got 52. Who's to say then if he's falling, trade up for Caleb Farley? If you lose J.C. Horn, do it. Right? That was why. That was what you did. So the overall trade yield then is essentially Christian Barmore. And maybe flip that if you want. Take Caleb Farley at 20 overall, this pick that we're talking about here that the Broncos got from Pittsburgh, and then trade up for Christian Barmore. When we did our mock draft, our full first-round mock draft, I think Christian Barmore went 32 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So maybe you think he's going to fall. Maybe you're scared if you're a Cowboys fan that we've talked so much about how other teams in better positions might be the ones to ultimately take a chance on Caleb Farley, right? Because we think that somebody we had him taking with the Buffalo Bills, right? A team who has some roster legitimacy, some dependability on their roster so they can withstand whatever it's going to take for Caleb Farley to get back on the field. But if you're really that scared and you have 5 picks on day 2 and you're the Dallas Cowboys, take Caleb Farley at 20 overall. I mean, we in the full Cowboys mock draft we did earlier this week, we talked about at 13 overall when Cole Patterson traded back, taking Caleb Farley there. So, I mean, if the Cowboys trade back to 20 overall, say with the Chicago Bears, because whatever quarterback is there, whether it's obviously Justin Fields or Mac Jones, whatever the case may be, if you move down to 20 and you pick up a second and a third round pick, I don't think it's going to be a first round pick. I look at all the examples we looked at. Nobody really picked up a future first round pick except for in the Patrick Mahomes trade. And that was obviously to go as high as number 7. 10 is not as high as 7. But if the Cowboys took Caleb Farley, I'm going to wrap it up for you right here. One nice, neat little package for you. Cowboys trade down with the Chicago Bears. Let's take a look at what the Bears have to work with, by the way. That 20th overall pick. Let's say 52nd overall. That looks really nice, right? So the Cowboys, they use that 20th overall pick on Caleb Farley. And then as the first round's ending, bam, you stop. Chill. Wait a second right now. Take 44, take 52, and take Christian Barmore. And maybe you don't even feel like it's necessary to jump up to the end of the first round. Maybe he's falling, right? Like maybe like we talked about earlier with Jamin Davis, maybe Barmore's that guy, right? Because, people have concerns. Not everybody bought into the college football playoff and everything like that. So maybe he falls, and maybe Thursday ends with him obviously still on the board. And so maybe Friday, when Friday starts, the Cowboys have spent the whole time saying, you know what? We have 44. We have 52. We have 3 third-round picks because let's call it 83rd overall that the Bears give the Cowboys. Let's call those top 3 picks the Cowboys picks. Let's take some of our picks and let's move up in the second round to go get Christian. And that way we can add to our defensive tackle rotation. And we're not paying an incredible premium on the position. We're still getting him at a legitimate value because we dropped 10 spots. We walked away with a potential star corner in Caleb Farley. We got a potential star defensive tackle. It all worked out. And no, you didn't get J.C. Horn, but you can't have everything your way. All right. Let's be patient. All right. Let's be cool. All right. Let's all be chill about this. You can't have everything. And that's why I think it's possible. But if you look at New England's draft picks, that 15th overall pick is nice. And that 15th overall pick is probably J.C. Horn. But I don't think you're getting 46. I think you're maybe getting 15, 96, and something else. And maybe you would rather have J.C. Horn and something else. But I think I convinced you that having Caleb Farley and potentially Christian Barmore is a nice way to operate. Again, that's not a certainty. Everything is uncertain in the NFL draft. There's a level of unpredictability to it all. But it is a really, really, really fun hypothetical to consider. And so that's why ultimately it makes sense for the Cowboys to trade out, right? We've been talking so long about how it's a real and legitimate option for them. And I think that when you look at the precedent, I almost said the president, when you look at the precedent that has been set We've seen 3 instances in the last 6 years. And by the way, all of these trades, if I didn't mention, have happened on draft day. These aren't trades that happened the week before or 2 months before, whatever. These are all trades that happened on draft day. And so 3 times in the last 6 years, the 10th overall pick has been traded for. And different value, different yields, different hauls have been made. And basically all of the time, whatever that haul was utilized to move up or move down and pick up either future extra capital or go up to get or have gone up to get a particular player that team liked. And so it does give you more options. And I know we all believe that the Cowboys roster is close and can compete now. And so if you believe that, you can't toy around like that. I mean, because the examples that we're talking about here, obviously the 2017 Buffalo Bills were not exactly in a position where people thought they were contenders. The 2018 Oakland Raiders, as evidenced by the fact that they would go on to trade Amari Cooper and Khalil Mack, were not exactly in positions that they were able to contend to a legitimate level. The 2019 Denver Broncos, the last example we cited, these are the teams that traded away the 10th overall pick, were not exactly in a place or a position where they could be competitive. The Dallas Cowboys are very different than all 3 of those teams. And so maybe the benefit isn't there. But if you are somebody who values the idea of trading back, this is I think a solid glimpse at what things could ultimately look like for them. And so we'll see. If they trade out, could be for a package that looks like this, but it is what it is. It's going to be very exciting. Whatever happens, I promise you that whatever happens, we're going to be here to break it down here on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. We love you. We appreciate when you subscribe. Make sure if you like everything that we do, you're checking out our podcast network. We have a podcast that gives you a different show every single day. It's available on all major podcast platforms. Simply search for Blog on the Boys. And if you can, subscribe, something else, leave a rating, write a review. Those things help us out so much. Make sure you check out bloggingtheboys.com, your home for the best Dallas Cowboys coverage on the internet. My name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at RJ Ochoa. I almost forgot Instagram existed. Email still exists. You can email me if you'd rather, rj.ochoa@sbnation.com. You can do me a favor. You can have the best day ever. You know why? Because you deserve it. We'll see you next time.